Good afternoon and welcome to Access All Areas on AFL.com.au. Coming up very shortly, we'll have Dr. Peter Larkins with all the injury news from a big round 6 of the AFL. And a special guest in studio today, Lindsay, Gilbee, one of the stars of the Western Bulldogs, himself injured. We'll chat to him very shortly. But right now, alongside me to chat about all the news from on and off the field following round 6 is the leading news-breaking journalist in football, Damian Barrett. Welcome to you, Damo.
G'day, Darcy. I really enjoyed Adelaide's win over the Swans. I reckon it's opened up the premiership race.
Certainly has. More contenders than I think there's been in a long, long while. We'll talk about that very shortly. But let's get straight into the head-high contact, Damo. Back on the agenda again today following the West Coast and Kangaroos game yesterday. And I think perhaps more accurately, the West Coast Eagles players drawing head-eye contact. Here's Luke Shuey. Is he the new Joel Selwood, Damo, drawing some head-eye contact?
Oh, he's a new Luke Shuey. He's actually doing better than Joel Selwood, I think, what's been happening this year. But, Darcy, when we see these package we've got here, and this is Shuey in isolation, we'll have a look at some other incidents soon. I reckon all these free kicks are here. I reckon all of them are there, and I actually don't hold it against the umpires for paying them. Now, clubs, when they play the Eagles, they know this is going to happen. For 2 weeks in a row now, we've had clubs complaining after the game, this is what happens. They know it going into it. They've got to adjust their technique, I reckon.
Well, I've got no problems with the free kicks being paid.
That free kick's there.
Absolutely, and I don't think anyone is suggesting that the free kick shouldn't be paid. It's perhaps just the unintended consequences of the way the game's evolved. When you put rule changes in place, players adapt really quickly, and the Eagles have developed this ability to lower their shoulders, raise their arm and draw head-eye contact. The question is, do we think this is in the spirit of the way the game should be played? There is a rule, Damo, that says if you duck your head, then the free kick won't be paid. Now, I just feel as though this is a version of that. The players have adapted. I know the other players have got to adapt back, but perhaps should we be calling play on? Hey, you lowered your body, you drew the contact, perhaps it's play on.
Look, it would be one way of dealing with it, Dust, but I don't think we can. I mean, the interpretation has been this way now for some time. We can't change interpretations in the middle of a season. I mean, I know there has been done in the past, but I don't think on this issue it's one that's worthy of it. I mean, you saying we should? I
think we need to look at it. I think the fact that the holding the ball decision has been played so quickly, and we've got this obsession now with the ball coming out, that I don't think it's fair that players are getting an advantage by crouching down, lowering their bodies. Perhaps, certainly not now. It's not that big an issue right at the moment. But let's have a listen to the North Melbourne coach, Brad Scott, and his thoughts on the free kicks in the game yesterday.
I wouldn't like our players to develop a reputation for doing that. But the umpires call it as they see it. There's a specific technique which is employed, and there's a specific technique to counter that. And too many times today, they employed their technique and we didn't employ ours.
I think he's pretty measured there, Damo. He's not complaining, he's responding to a question, but he's sort of saying it's genuinely something we've got to deal with a little bit better. The only technique I can think of is you've got to lower your body more, but West Coast is just getting an advantage at the moment.
Yeah, well, the advantage is, Dust, it's pretty stark. I mean, on head-high tackles alone, they've got 58 free kicks from head-high tackles this year. That's 15 more than the next best. And if you compare it with the club with the least, it's Collingwood. They've only got down 20. So they've got 48 more free kicks this year from head-high contacts. And it's also stark too. When you look at these games being played at Subiaco this year, they're 94 to 50 in a free kick differential of 44. Again, there's nothing in the rules, Darcy, that says free kicks have to be even though.
No, not at all. The free kicks are there. It is just an adjustment in the game. The West Coast players, we just saw an example. Luke Shuey's doing it perfectly well. Why wouldn't you? Joel Selwood has made an art form of it over the last 4 or 5 years. There's no criticism of the players, no criticism of the umpires. It's just, are we comfortable with that being...
So do you reckon as of this week they should stop paying these free kicks?
No, I don't think that at all. I think we need to look at it. I think ducking your head... I mean, what we're seeing the Farskell situation, players almost like turtles leaning in trying to draw head-eye contact. No, I think is an accurate reflection. I think we need to monitor it and perhaps check.
Or do clubs just have to get over it maybe?
Well...
I reckon they do to a point this year.
I don't think they're complaining. I don't think Brad Scott's throwing his arms around going, hey, this cost us the game and using it as an excuse. But the coaches don't throw things on the agenda unless they are a concern for them. If the game's being played in a way that's not conducive to the spirit of it, I reckon the discussion and the dialogue needs to be open. You know the good thing, Damo?
Yes.
Positive. I reckon there are more contenders at the moment for the flag than I can remember in the last 8 or 10 years.
Well, we went into the year thinking that the Big Five of last year would be, again, the Big Five of this year, and that is the case. But there's been the addition of the Sydney Swans, clearly. I reckon the Adelaide win over the Swans on the weekend, that puts them into that bracket as well. You cannot deny Essendon's form. No matter who they're playing against, they're playing well. They've lost one game by a kick against a very good opposition in Collingwood. I wouldn't totally rule out Fremantle either of still having a role in a top 4 situation. That's 9 teams. Tell us who you reckon.
Well, I reckon the top 8 as it sits at the moment, West Coast are an absolute massive chance. They won't lose a home game, I don't think, West Coast. So you can pencil them in for top 4.
There's some injury worries, though, and Doc will take us through them pretty soon.
And that's the big issue, and that might be the biggest factor in the whole season. Carlton are a genuine contender. I think Sydney might hit a hurdle about halfway through the year, but they're a quality side that's got a really good list going. You can't
Who wins it right now? Neck on the line.
I'll tell you what, I would almost say West Coast, if they can stay injury-free, get a home final over there, get into the situation. Collingwood are just starting to roll the way, and for some reason we discount Geelong. They're just going along beautifully, and if they get their list right, Fremantle have improved. Adelaide, you've got to throw Adelaide into the mix as well. They're probably a year or two behind, but they'll push for top 4.
It's a good year to be up and about, though, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it is open. Gold Coast Fremantle game on the weekend. There was a really big bullet dodged here by the AFL by way of this situation we'll take you through now. 38 seconds were lost in this game. Now, we're just going to quickly go through those 38 seconds. You see the clock there, 7:55 to go in the last quarter. Ball's bounced up. Play on that clock does not resume. Now, we're fast-forwarded through here. They're at 39 seconds have elapsed before the clock is restarted. Now, that's 39 seconds, Darcy, which allowed, effectively, Fremantle in the last 2 seconds of this game, as it played out, to kick a goal which took their winning margin from 1 point as it was to 7 points. Now, had that been a Gold Coast goal, where they were -1 to +5, we, I reckon, right now would be waiting for the outcome of an AFL commission meeting, as we had happened some time ago when they changed the result of a game
So you think if a goal had affected the outcome of the game, we'd be sitting here with them going back and reversing the result as they did in that famous game a few years ago?
They like to tell us that wasn't a precedent, but I can't look at it any other way. They changed the result of a football game for the first time in history. I reckon there would have been a case to say that was another example of that happening on the weekend, had that been a Gold Coast goal in that final 38 seconds.
AFL umpire appreciation round, not timekeeper appreciation round, boys. Just push the button. It's not that hard, Damo. We should be able to get it right. Let's take a look at Jack Revolt from the weekend, Damo, who kicked 4 goals and he's punched one straight in the umpire's head. No malice in that. The umpire got up. That's a bit of humour, isn't it?
It was a floater. Sometimes when you kick it like that, Darcy, you sort of mean it something sometimes. Brings us the mongrel there.
Well, I think he just put his hand up. That's a nice bit of interaction between player and umpire. No problems at all with that.
Kick 4 on the weekend, Darcy. 12 for the year. It still seems a little bit out of sorts. Tell me where he's at.
Yeah, I think what I liked about his game on the weekend was he was getting some good, clean, easy lead-up footy. He's been trying to play one-on-one out the back and use his ability, over the back of the ball a bit too often.
Okay.
I think he needs a few more tricks in his game. It was good to see him get that back and just start and got the delivery a bit more accurate than he's had in the past.
Our good friend in Adelaide, Michelangelo Rucci, has today really had a hard, critical look at the Port Adelaide situation, and particularly Matthew Primus. Made some pretty big statements.
I've got some of them in front of me here, Damo. Matthew Primus walked out of his coach's box at 5:12 p.m. yesterday with his AFL coaching career shot, says Michelangelo Rucci. He may as well have kept on walking. Port Adelaide has lost all credibility and improved and competitive team. Primus will become a martyr at a football club that declares it exists to win premierships and now cannot. He's 1 year and 6 games into a coaching career. Port Adelaide have improved this year. I think they've been far more competitive.
They were terrible yesterday for most of that game.
Absolutely. They're a young side. It's a little bit alarmist for me. I think you need to take a deep breath on this one. Give him a little bit of space, a little bit of time. He's an outstanding person in football, Matthew Primus, one of the most hard and competitive people I had any experience of playing against. I'm not sure Rooch might have gone a little bit earlier on that one.
Yeah, well, the other claims he made in that article was that he's been betrayed by his club's board, and also the character of his players is actually betraying him as well. So it's pretty strong stuff. But that's another quirky one from the weekend. Would you be having a Brownlow medalist who's a ruck rover up in the ruck against Tom Beltane?
Under no circumstances do you put your absolute elite midfielder
Simon Black
into a centre bounce against Bell Chambers. Lucky he didn't get killed, Simon Black.
What happened there?
They've had a balls up. Ruckman hasn't turned up. Now, Blackie, you point to one of the lesser ranks and you say,
underlings?
Cannon fodder, in you go. And Bell Chambers, I'm surprised he didn't just come through and wipe Simon Black. Never, ever should happen again. He's a star, Simon Black. Doesn't need to be doing that. Lindsay Gilbee, our special guest in studio. Looking forward to chatting to him. But Dr. Peter Larkins, unbelievable run of injuries so far in 2012. The doc, the most accurate, the most informative, and some more news on some players that were injured on the weekend. We're going to talk to Doc Larkins next here on Access All Areas.